Everyone knows about the U.S. trade deficit and the decline of American manufacturing, but we've explained away both trends as a fair bargain. We get inexpensive goods from abroad and shift our economy from commodity manufacturing to intellectual innovation. But according to Clyde Prestowitz, author of The Betrayal of American Prosperity, this has actually been a terrible deal. Clyde, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, now so you know that the standard explanation is that fair trade and open trade has been a good deal for Americans. You disagree. Why?
Well, I think actually that fair trade and open trade in many respects has been good for Americans. But I think that we often don't have fair trade or open trade. And in fact, I think it's a misnomer to talk about trade. What we have is globalization. Trade is we produce something, I produce something, ship it to you, you produce something, ship it to me. But what we have now is global corporations putting I put my factory in your country, you put your factory in my country. So we have massive cross-border flows of capital, cross-border flows of technology. Mm-hmm. Trade theory assumes that those cross-border technology and capital flows don't take place, but they obviously do take place. So when we talk free trade, it really doesn't describe the situation that we have globally. And because of that, when we talk about the benefits, we're not really thinking about the totality of the situation.
Okay. So you give the example of the iPhone. Now, a lot of people talk about the iPhone as an example of how this really works, is that we design some cutting-edge technology, it changes everything, and that's a high-profit, high-margin operation. And then if the actual manufacturing of it takes place in another place, well, that's low profit margin and can be done in other places. America prospers. But you have a different take on that.
As you said, we've had this notion for a long time that we'll do the design and the R&D and the high-tech development, and we'll let that dirty kind of low-tech manufacturing go. But what we've seen, take the case of laptop computers, for example, is that for a long time it was Dell and people like that did the design in the U.S. and Taiwan kind of did the assembly. Taiwan's now doing the design. The global supply chain presumes that the linkage between manufacturing and design and development and marketing and so forth are discrete, distinct links that can be easily broken up. But in fact, they are tightly adherent, and one moves and there's a tendency then to drag the rest of it with it.
You've talked about a number of things in your book. One of them is raising the savings and investment rate in the country to 20%. That would be a complete reversal of the trend over the past generation at least.
Right.
How would you accomplish that?
Right.
And why is it necessary?
Right. Well, it's necessary because the United States is a low-saving, low-investment economy. And because of that, we have accumulated chronic trade deficits and also chronic federal budget deficits. So we are highly in debt domestically and internationally, and the debt levels have now reached the point at which domestically our ability to borrow is beginning to be a little bit of a question mark long term, and internationally our freedom of action is being constrained because we hesitate to do certain things or talk in certain ways about the guys who are our bankers. And so we're losing our freedom of action and our independence, as well as our ability to, for example, do stimulus programs if we have a recession.
When you say the guys who are our bankers, you mean China?
Well, not just China. I mean, we borrow a lot of money from Japan and from Singapore and Hong Kong and Saudi Arabia. Russia. We're a non-discriminatory borrower, and it's both economically and geopolitically important that we reverse this low-saving, low-investment situation. How do you do that? We did it, in 1941, September 1941, when I was born. The U.S. savings rate was about 10%. In September 1942, a year later, it was 40%. So if you're really serious, you can do it. Now, of course, that was wartime. But some of the things that we could do to change would be, let's take mortgages. We have a tax write-off for the interest that you have on a mortgage. We have that for your first house, we have it for your second house, and if your accountant is good, you get it for your third house. In fact, if you take a home equity loan, and use the proceeds of the home equity loan to take a cruise with your wife, you get to write that interest off too. We subsidize that consumption. Well, we got to stop, or at least constrain it. Maybe I'll give you the interest write-off on your first house, but not on your home equity loan, not on your cruise.
You also talk about something called smart globalization. That sounds like a kind of an umbrella term for industrial and kind of industrial and economic policy in the U.S. Is that what you mean?
Let's take something like photovoltaic cells, solar panels. Right now, China and Germany and Japan are putting a lot of effort into developing leadership in photovoltaic cell technology and commercialization. Now, if the United States has no policy, that's a policy. Right. That's a decision. The United States is making a decision that we're not going to be in photovoltaic cells.
Dumb globalization, I'll bet you'd say.
Yeah, dumb globalization, right. So it's in a way you can't avoid having some kind of an industrial policy. So the question is not will you, won't you, it's kind of will it be smart or dumb.
Let's hope that in the future we get smart about this.
Let's
Sounds
hope.
like there isn't a whole lot of time left.
But we have good cards. We just need to read my book.
Okay, all right, very good. And with that, we'll leave it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And thank you for watching.